Okay, let's talk about pages. You know, pages are the core feature of the system, and everything in a Yi2 CMS site revolves around pages and their layouts. I'm actually in an edit session for a page right here. You know, the page has got general info, name, title, which layout I'm going to use for it. This one I've chose my basic header footer layout. If it has a thumbnail, if it's going to show up in a list, I can define the thumbnail for the page here. You know, I can give it a summary so that, you know, I can describe the page so that in the page listing on the back end, you know, I can see what the page is about. It's a description that's a little different than what's called the SEO description. SEO meta description actually gets inserted into the page, and you don't want to put information, you know, so I give you the ability to summarize or describe the page outside of that for the back end purposes. The HTML editor is very robust. First of all, you have this gantry or grid construction system. Let me actually, I'm going to just go in and create a page that I can demonstrate this with. So I'll go in here, go to create page, and I'm not even going to bother to save this, so I'm not going to bother to even fill any of this information out. I just wanted to show you this. Your pages start out like this, and you can either add rows, and then each of these rows, right, you can further carve up. You know, you can add other sections into them, you know, and you can get these very wicked, very nice and responsive grid systems, you know, set up on your pages for pouring content into. And then each one of these zones is a separate little HTML editor. You can get in there and you can type in text, you can format it, you can insert images, you can, you know, if you need to like pour in some source code for like a YouTube video, you can go grab your YouTube embed code, go to the source code thing, plug it in right here. And in addition to this, the system also contains this design elements back end, which is a separate piece of software. It's by Invito, but I've plugged it in here and actually just created basically an interface to it. It's not part of this system. It's a separate thing, but it gives you, and it's licensed to use with this system. I actually purchased the license rights to it. It gives you this interface that allows you to pick, oops, this thing is a little bit buggy. Okay, come on. All blocks. So, you know, I can literally drag this stuff out onto this palette and grab it and use it as content in my site. So if I need a header or column sections or the slideshow that, you know, I need to hand code a slideshow. The system has a slideshow in it that you can use, the gallery system, but say you have to hand code one, well, you got the ability to do that here. You know, some nice content sections that are all laid out. And then once you get these in here, you can actually edit this stuff. And, you know, it's got its own little, you know, editor that you can get in here and edit with. It's lightweight editing, but, you know, this way the code stays good. And then you can actually then grab the code here, grab your source code, and then copy and paste this stuff into your website. There's a bug here, a known bug I have. This little checkbox save now is supposed to save it into the zone of the page that you're working on. It works in layouts, but it doesn't work here, and I haven't tracked down why. It should, in theory, work. It doesn't. So, but you can get around that simply by grabbing the HTML out of here and copy and pasting. But again, you know, so you've got a bunch of nice content here to start with. This stuff is all bootstrapped. So whatever your theme is, it will pick up your theme. You know, the colors of your type, the background colors, your typography rules, all of that will translate over into the page. Let me just get out of here and then go back to the page I was this one, since it's a real page. Anyway, again, just like layouts, the page can have shared blocks. This page doesn't have any shared blocks. Let me go to a page that actually does. The page listing that makes up the example pages here in the site. Right? This is a page, and it has built into it a shared block, which is a page list. Right? So if I go to example page list, and you note here it's got a shared block, example page list. And the HTML editor simply has a token for where I want that page list to go. Right there, that's this is a token. This little word in side of curly braces, and then the block has, you can see right there, it's got the token, that tells this block where it's going to go, and that block actually is under blocks. You go to block, and we'll say, where is it? Example page list. There it is. And it's of type page list. Don't confuse that with the token. That's just the actual type of thing it is. And then the block code on this is really, really, really simple. It tells me what field I'm going to search and what I'm searching for. You can create page lists based on name, keywords, or this thing that's in the system called categories. You can actually maintain hierarchies of categories in the system and group things by category, and then use that to build lists with end menus and much else, search systems, the whole bit. Again, I've discussed this elsewhere, but even at the block level, you have permissions. You can turn the block off. You can turn it off here and append it, and it's not available anywhere to any page. Right? It just simply doesn't show up. The token gets replaced with nothing. It just gets wiped out. Or if I go back to this page list page, right, you can also append it at the page level. So here, say, I just want to hide that piece of content for this one page, but I don't want to do it globally. I can just do it right here in the page. Simply go here, make this pending, right, and do that, and then bingo, it's gone. It doesn't show up. Okay, and like I said, you can pour any kind of content into these things. The design elements, of course, are available to the layout system, and that design, my hope is that developers can monetize the system by building additional content and plugging it into that design elements deal, so that people can actually use this system to build fully functional, robust websites with simply clicking a few buttons, going in and changing the content, changing that default content to their real content, and you're out of there, without having to involve desktop development tools like Dreamweaver or FrontPage or something like that. Pages, of course, have SEO rules. Here, remember we were talking about taxonomy. This is the taxonomy. This is a little taxonomy list that I built for my site that is actually not in use anywhere here, but it's there. A page needs a URL, so you can give it a URL. It doesn't have to have, but it helps to have keywords. And the meta description, this is the meta description that's inserted into the meta description tag on the page. You have release permissions at the page level. You can actually, I'm going to do a video on permissions, and their permissions, global permissions, are about roles and routes. You can actually close down or open up or limit, however you want to say it, entire routes or entire URL paths to specific or from specific roles. You have negative and positive permissions. which gives you real fine-grained ability to segregate and aggregate content to specific targeted audiences or groups of users. Good content management system needs that out of the box. For instance, Drupal, you have to add that stuff as a plugin, and in WordPress, the same deal. You have to add plugins that then interact with the user system. And the great thing about Yi is that stuff is built into the core system. It's all part of the basic Yi2 Advanced framework. The role-based access controls are just there. They work. I'm using them, and it's helped the development curve of this thing tremendously, because I didn't have to think about any of that stuff. All I had to do was just plug it into my controllers directly from Yi, and it works. You have the ability to create help and notes for each page, or global help. I don't have it plugged into the menu system. I'm going to try to get that done before I deploy this thing. But basically, it gives you, help and notes for individual pages or groups of pages. What else? I think that's about it, the discussion on pages. I mean, pages are the core part of the site. That's what you see when you go to a site, is you see the web pages. And, here we have, let me see, whoops. There's this page, and this page, you saw me working on this page, and here it is in its deal with the content I poured into it so far. Okay, so I'm going to move on to blocks.